Hello, everyone. Welcome to week 3. We are like past the halfway point, which is really exciting. And we are well into the final stretch of the class, which means that you're going to be done soon. You're going to be done with Photoshop and on to bigger and better graphic design courses. So congratulations on making it this far. I was really pleased to see the work that you guys did in week 2. And just keep on doing what you did in week 1 and week 2, and you're going to finish up class really strong and really be proud of the work you're doing, because I'm seeing so many things that are not just following the directions and using tools correctly, but you guys are really pushing the boundaries and really working hard to make designs that look really interesting and really spectacular. So give yourselves a pat on the back. Again, I'm just loving the work that I'm seeing from you all. Something that's really important to keep in mind, next week, week 4, our final week, woohoo, something you should be really excited about, is a very important week, because Saturday midnight, week 4, is a hard deadline. That means that you have to have everything turned in by Saturday midnight Mountain Time. Keep in mind that's Mountain Time. So midnight Mountain Time will mean 11 o'clock Pacific Time, and it will mean 1 o'clock Central Time and 2 o'clock Eastern Time. So be aware of those times and dates, because the disappointing thing about the week 4 deadline is, let's say you're in the middle of an upload and it's like 11:30 when you start uploading your file, and the file is a large file, so it takes a long time to upload, and then midnight rolls around and the upload isn't finished yet. Boom. You'll get cut out of the class. They won't let you continue the upload, and you will get a 0 on your assignment, which is sad because you guys are rocking the good grades. You guys are so many A's, so many really great scores, and so I would hate to see your A grade drop down to a C, because if you don't turn your week 4 work in on time, that's 185 points, I believe. And so that 185 points will be a 0. And that's the difference between, like I said, an A and a C. Or if you're in the B range, that means that your B will be dropped down to a D. And if you're in the C range, that means that you're not going to pass the class. And a really important note, I don't know if this applies to anyone who is with us today, because you guys are all, I'm looking at the names on this list, you guys are all doing fantastic. The cost of a failed class, how do I put this? It's really expensive. You don't want to fail a class. Not only does that mean that you have to spend extra time getting your degree, but it costs you $1,500 every time you fail a class, and then you have to retake the class again. $1,500, and that's not like paid for or reimbursed by financial aid. That's $1,500 that you have to take out of your own pocket and pay. And yikes, I can think of a lot of things I'd rather do with $1,500. That's the cost of a trip to Europe. So some of you maybe have a lot of money and can spend your disposable income on just getting an F in a Photoshop class or something like that. You're like, oh, $1,500, no big deal. But for me, and for probably a lot of you guys, that we don't really have that much disposable income. So if we have an extra $1,500 around, probably want to put that into something fun like a vacation or something important. So please, 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 just don't fail a class. I know that I'm your instructor. I'm willing to do whatever I can to help make sure that you don't fail a class. You also have your faculty program advisor, your associate deans, who are also willing to do whatever it takes to help make sure that you don't pass a class, or you don't fail a class rather. And we also have the tutoring center, the student success center, which is a great place to go to get one-on-one help with anything that you're struggling with, and that's open just so often. And that's about it. So this doesn't apply to any of you guys, because you guys are doing great. You guys are great students. But just know that in these final weeks, we want to really make sure that we're on top of turning our work in on time, and making sure that we don't accidentally miss that week 4 deadline, which is huge and super, super, super important. And also back up your work, guys, because you never know when your computer will suddenly decide to crap out on you and not turn on or just like freeze up one day. And if your files are only stored on your computer and they're not stored on anywhere else, like an external hard drive or the cloud drive or Google Drive, or then you've lost all these hours of projects that you've completed. So save and back up your work in multiple locations. I want to start at the beginning of class asking you guys if you have any questions, if you need help with anything, if you struggled with an assignment, if there's something that you're a bit confused on and you need me to walk you through it and get that help, and then we'll dive into doing our week 3 assignments. I could have sworn I had one student who said she wanted my help at the beginning of class with something from week 2 that she was struggling with. I just can't remember who it was. Oh, Mercedes, you love my class. That's so nice of you. Thank you. Okay, I'm not sure if that student is here, but does anyone else have anything that they're struggling with from week 2, or even if from week 1, if there was something that you're confused about and you need a little help with it, I can devote 5 minutes at the beginning of class to assisting you with anything you had trouble with in week 1 or week 2. Anyone? Okay, and beginning, actually, no, before I talk about that, I just want to remind you all. Okay, so Dale just posted in the chat. Oh, Josh couldn't figure out how to liquefy the hair. Let's do that, Josh. Josh, any chance you could share your screen? I'd love to see that hair, and I can kind of walk you through how to liquefy it. Okay, and now while Josh is getting that up, now I finally remembered what I wanted to talk to you guys about. So multi-sessions. I'm sure you guys are all aware of these because I've had many students come into my multi-sessions on Wednesday and Thursday, but multi-sessions on Wednesday and Thursday are times that you can come in and get one-on-one help from me. So if there is something with this week's assignment that you are just not getting and you are struggling with, come on into the multi-session. Same time as this class session on Wednesdays and Thursdays. Show me your work, show me what you're having trouble with, and I can just walk you through and troubleshoot and help you get the thing done. And you'll also know that you're gonna turn it in and get an A. So that's pretty easy. And then another thing that you can utilize to get help is the Student Success Center. And the Student Success Center is open just all the time. And you can venture on into that in our classroom. And here it is. And if you just scroll down and you go here to the Student Success Center, boom, that is where you can go to get one-on-one help with your assignments or anything that you're struggling with. Okay, now let's see if Our student who needed help is ready. Okay, cool. Josh, go ahead and hit share screen, and I'd love to see your screen.
Can everybody see?
Yep, I can hear you and I can see.
Okay. So do you want me to just, we'll go to the original file?
No. Go to the one that you have done.
Okay. Because I ended up using clone stamp to actually brush out her hair in the back. Because I
Oh,
could,
it looks very fuzzy and fake. Yeah,
yeah,
not
and
really
I could
successful.
not figure out how to do liquify
Okay.
even
So
from.
let's hit delete on that layer because it's not good. So just click on layer 5 and then hit the delete button on your keyboard.
Okay.
And now hold down the shift button, hold down command, and then
And
option and E. Shift, command, option, E, hold them all down at the same time. Shift, command, option, E, and then let go. Good, now you merged those layers together. And now what you're gonna do is go up to filter up at the top of the screen. And then click on liquify.
oh, okay, I see it now. All right, so that shortcut is Shift Command X.
Yeah, I honestly have never used it as a shortcut key before though.
That's good to know, though.
Yeah. Okay, and now I don't know what's going on there, but let's go over to the forward warp tool, the finger tool up at the top of the screen. Cool. And then bring your finger tool down, and that's actually a pretty good size. You can make it just ever so slightly larger, but just by clicking the right bracket key next to the letter P. Let's make it a
The
little,
right bracket or the left bracket?
the right bracket. Good. And now you're going to place your cursor halfway on her hair and halfway off her hair on the left side. Good. And now click and push outward. Click and push towards the left. Good. And then let go. Just do a little at a time. Click and push to, and then go down and then click and push outward. And it's an art. So if you don't get it right the first time, you can always try again. And then as you get closer to her skin and like to her face, you'll want to shrink the size of your brush down by hitting the left bracket. And that way you can go into like smaller places. And especially when you do the other side of her head and puff out her hair, you don't want to accidentally skew her forehead or make her eyeball like change colors or change sizes. So I would say use a smaller brush on the other side of her head and a little bit bigger, like about the size of her forehead. Good. And then, half on her hair, half off, and then just gently push outward. Good. And then
Personally, I like the straggly hair in the front because it kind of gives it a
yeah,
effect that there's actually motion in the picture.
yeah. So that's the same thing I thought. Like I say, just leave it.
Yeah. So, all right.
Cool. Looks like you got the hang of it. Anything else I can help you with?
No, that was it. It just for some reason I didn't get the fact that it was actually a filter.
Oh, haha. You thought like maybe it was in the toolbar.
Yep, and I could not find it for the life of me.
Yeah, understandable. No worries at all.
Okay, cool beans. Thank you.
Have a good one.
So how do I stop sharing?
Oh, I will stop it for you. Okay,
Okay.
let me check the chat and see if anyone else has any issues. Rachel, one of your layers looked unrealistic. Okay, probably because the incorrect blending mode was used. So Rachel, if you want, hit share screen, and I'd love to see your project, and I'll point out which one it wasn't quite working. Okay, good. Now, let's find, zoom in, hit Command plus sign. Yeah, it looks like the lips are looking a little strange. So click on curves. No, 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 the layer that says curves one, the the layer that's at the top that says curves one. It's just right above. What? So move your cursor up. Good. Yeah, click on that. And let's change the blending mode. Right now it's on normal. You change it to color and let's see what that does. Okay, so that's looking a little bit more natural. And then what you can also do is soften the edge a little bit. It's a little weird that there's like this giant hole cut out where her lip ring is, but maybe feathering might help that look a little bit better. So double click on curves one on the black and white shape, not the name curves one, but the black and white shape. No, 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 the box. Yeah, double click. Just click, click. Good. And then increase feather. Okay, let go periodically. Why is nothing really happening? Are you letting go? Let go. Let go completely of your clicker. Oh, it looks like you have two layers. Click on the eyeball tool next to curve one. Yeah, so that's why nothing's happening because it's already on, maybe is it the merge layer? Turn the eyeball off on layer 6. Okay, so we have to find out which, so I think maybe it was layer 6, like for some reason had the lipstick merged onto it. So go back up to curves 1 and turn the eyeball back on. And now decrease the feathering. Okay, good. Now that looks like a natural lip color. So that's perfect. I would say leave it right there like that. And then it looks like you painted part of her nose blue. So let's find the layer that has the blue eyes on it, and then get your eraser out and erase the part where it's on her nose. Okay, that looks like it. So click on layer 6 and select layer 6 or layer 5. Sorry, no, no, layer 5. And then hit E for erase. And it looks like you don't quite have the right erase tool. Oh, maybe you do. Yeah, click on that eraser tool in the tool panel on the left side. Click and hold. And let's just use a standard eraser tool rather than the background eraser tool. Yeah, good. And then you can just erase. There we go. Now it's looking a lot better. And then one final thing you could do before it's like ready for your portfolio and to send to employers is fix what you did on her eyebrow. There's like this weird white patch at the end of her eyebrow. So find the layer that that is on and then use your eraser tool to erase that weird white patch. Okay, good. And so it looks like there's also another layer that has some weirdness up there. See if we can find that one. And I would just go through each of your layers, turning the eyeballs off and on until you can find the layer that has that one on it. Are you sure it's not layer 7 maybe? Yep, that's it. I would just turn it off and I would either just leave it like this, or if you have time to just practice with the clone stamp and practice making the clone stamp realistic, see if you can fix that eyebrow just on your own by practicing. Makes sense, because it looks like you understand how to use the clone stamp tool. It's just you need to practice making it look realistic. Cool. Anything else I can help you with? Okay, and anyone else need help with anything before we jump in and get started? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't scroll down. Anna had a problem with the clone stamp. Go ahead and Anna, you can go ahead, share your screen. I'd love to help you with the clone stamp. Anna, are you there? Okay, I'm not sure Anna is there anymore. So Anna, if you do ever come back, I'd love to help you with the clone stamp and whatever you're having issues with there.
Sorry, I can't remember how to share.
Oh, okay. Just hit the share screen button that's right in the middle of your screen.
Oh, okay.
5 great gifts for dad is big home improvement savings during Menards Father's Day sale. Shrub Protect and Feed from Bear Advance protects your trees and shrubs against insect infestations and feeds for up to 12 months. This concentrate is
Alrighty, so it looks like you are on the right track. It looks good. It looks like you've probably already used the clone stamp tool a little bit. Hit Command + sign just so I can zoom in and see it.
It won't let me.
You have to click on Photoshop. So click anywhere you want.
Oh, sure. Okay, sorry.
If it's possible, can you turn off the TV that's in the background?
Yeah.
Okay, it's just really hard to hear.
I got it. I'll do it. Sorry.
you and your family safe.
Okay, sorry. My kid was watching something.
So now what you'll do is you'll select the clone stamp tool. Which is that little stamp, it's underneath the paintbrush. So if you see the paintbrush and then the tool that's right directly underneath it. No, up, that's the eraser tool. Up, there.
Oh, duh. Okay, yeah. Sorry.
And then what you're gonna do, you got sample all layers checked, good. And then what you can do is, let's take a sample of our eye. So use the bracket next to the letter P to increase the size of your brush. More. Make it as big as her eyeball. Good, and then hold down the Alt or Option button on your keyboard.
Okay.
And then click on your trackpad with your finger. Press.
Mm-hmm.
Keep on holding. And now press and let go on your trackpad. Good, and now let go of the Alt or Option button.
Oh. See, I can do it when I'm not trying, but when I'm trying, I spend hours and I just can't do it.
Oh no, it shouldn't take you hours. Anytime you're spending more than 5 minutes on something, just shoot me an email.
Oh, it took me forever. I couldn't even use the clone stuff on her eyebrow. I had to use the lasso. I could not get it. My fingers were not working with me.
Yep, but now you can just paint and
okay.
That's all it is.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Hey, anyone else need help with anything? Yay, week 3. So week 3 is really fun, you guys, because we are going to be doing image compositing, which is one of those things that is really, really going to help you in your career as graphic designers, because this is another thing that like entry-level production artists or graphic design assistants get asked to do all the time. What your boss will do is give you a big old stack of photos and in a huge zip file, and you will have to go and cut the subject out of its background so that then they can be composited onto different backgrounds. And this is also useful for those of you who are interested in selling stock photography. because if you take photos of people or objects or animals, a really great way to make your stock photography sell better is by cutting those animals or those people out of their background and putting them on a solid white background. So what we're learning how to do this week is all about how to cut things out of their background and put them on different backgrounds and make your own photo composites, which are kind of like collages. Oh, so Rachel asked a great question. What is stock photography? Well, if you go to a website like shutterstock.com or Getty Images or Corbis, stock photography is images that photographers create that then are downloaded by companies, publishers, people who are making presentations, basically people who need photos for stuff. You know, think of a book cover designer needs to have a photo of a romantic couple like kissing with wind blowing in their hair or whatever. They go to a stock photography website and they download those images. So photographers take lots and lots of images of different things that companies might use for their projects. And then every time a company downloads that image, the stock photographer gets paid for it. And so this is something that a lot of students like to do while they're in school at the same time, because it's a really easy way to make money without having to do much, right? You just upload, this is called passive income. You just upload your images to shutterstock.com or gettyimages.com, and then you can be asleep, you could be working on your schoolwork, and every time someone downloads your image, you get paid for it. Yeah, exactly. Erica created a great example. Those images that are in your picture frames when you first buy a picture frame, that's stock photography. So, oh, I forgot I wanted to share some Beyonce advice for you all. Beyonce, we know, is like the most successful person in the world ever. And part of what makes her so successful is she takes her laptop with her everywhere. So that's a tip for you guys, all of you guys. If you are going somewhere and let's say you have to go out of town really quick, or let's say you have to just take your car in for an oil change, bring your laptop with you. And while you're sitting around, you know, for 60 minutes while your car is getting its oil changed, you can be on your laptop and hopefully not doing Facebook or Twitter, but hopefully, you know, opening up Photoshop and working on your schoolwork, working on your projects, or jotting down brilliant ideas. So take your laptop everywhere. And anytime you have any sort of downtime, where you're waiting for something, where you're waiting for an appointment, where you're in a waiting room, you know, be on your laptop doing your schoolwork, practicing your Photoshop, and that way you're using Beyonce skills and you are doing excellent time management as well. So masking. Masking is a way for you to cut subjects out of their background and put them onto different backgrounds. And like I said earlier, it's probably one of the most important things that you need to know how to do as a graphic designer. And if we go to our week 3, and we are venturing over to our week 3 assignment. This image here is a perfect example of compositing using masking. We have one photo of a dog, and then we have a separate photo of a man wearing a suit. And using the power of masking, we have cut out the dog's head and then placed it where the man's head should be. And that is essentially what we're doing this week. You have a number of images to choose from. And what you're going to be taking is one animal, one hat, and one prop and one background. And then you're going to be compositing them all together using masking. So before you get started, I really want to make sure that you all pay attention to the correct image size. And here in the bottom of the instructions, it tells you that the document that we're making is 7 inches wide by 5 inches tall. And you might be wondering, at only 72 DPI, you might be wondering, why are we making an image that is so small, so small? Well, the reason why is because you're going to be uploading your PSD file this week. And if we had a 300 DPI file, it would be many, many megabytes, and it would take a long time for you to upload. But since we have a 72 DPI file, it'll still be a few megabytes, but it will upload a whole lot faster than if it was a larger file size. So please, please help yourself out, not only in terms of grades, but also in terms of like uploading, by making your file size nice and small and 5 inches by 7 inches, 72 DPI. So these are the tools that we are going to be using to mask, that means cut objects out of their background. And you might be familiar with some of these tools because these are all the tools that you use for making selections, okay? So we've already been a little bit familiar with the marquee tools and the lasso tools and the shape tools and quick masks and all of that. So we'll learn how to apply these to our project. And Dale just asked a great question. Can we use our own photos for this project? And the answer is no. In the past, we have allowed students to use their own photos, but we found that far too many students used very low quality images that were very blurry and that were taken with like a camera phone and ended up looking not very great. So the school has made a firm policy for this class that you only use the provided images, and this is going to help you out in the long run because, you know, these are high quality, high resolution images, and they're going to be a lot easier for you to composite, and they're also going to look good. So when you put them in your portfolio, they're not going to be unprofessional or amateurish looking. Okay, so let's go into Photoshop. And we're going to make a new document. So we're going to go to File, New, and the size that we're going to make this is, of course, always going to be in inches rather than pixels. And the width is going to be 7, and the height is going to be 5, and the resolution is going to be 72. And see, very, very small file size, but we can still make our project look good, and we can always zoom in to help us out with our selections. So please do write down this shortcut key if you guys don't have this written down already. Command plus sign is the shortcut key that we use to zoom into something. And if you're on a PC, that's going to be Control plus sign. Okay, now I'm going to quickly go over the different ways to make selections and then make masks. And then I'll take the actual photo elements that are provided for you and I'll put them together into a composition according to our week 3 assignment guidelines. So first I'm just going to place a very simple image on here just so I can demonstrate the tools. So we'll place embedded, and I'm going to browse to a very simple file. Right, flowers are good to practice on because they have smooth, simple edges. And now all we have to do is, after we place it, File, Place Embedded, we just hit Enter or Return, and that places the picture into our document. Now, I'm going to use the easiest selection tool there is, and this is found on the same button as the rectangle marquee tool. So the rectangle marquee tool and the elliptical marquee tool are roommates together over here in the tool panel. So this is the tool panel. Rectangle marquee tool and elliptical marquee tool. And what I'm going to do is make a selection with the elliptical marquee tool. I'll use the same setting you guys probably have, which is 0. Your feathering is probably on 0 at this point. And I'm going to hold down the shift button, click and drag at a diagonal angle. And ta-da! And basically I've made a circular selection around this flower just by holding down the shift button, clicking and dragging, and using the elliptical marquee tool to make a selection. Now, after I have made this selection, I'm going to go down to the bottom of the layer panel, and I'm going to find the square with the circle inside of it. And this is the Add a Layer Mask icon. At the very, very bottom of your layer panel, there's the Add the Layer Mask icon. So be sure to write down these steps if you guys haven't written them down already. In order to bring a photo into your project, you go File, Place Embedded. Then in order to make a selection, we're just playing with the marquee tools right now. Select either the rectangle marquee tool or the elliptical marquee tool. Hold down the shift button and click and drag at a diagonal angle. And then step 3, go down to the bottom of the layer panel and click on the square with a little circle inside of it. And that is the Add a Layer Mask icon. And so what we have done is we've turned this flower into a polka dot, right? So it's not a realistic selection. It's not like one of those selections where we have just cut out the flower and it's by itself on a white background, right? This is more of a stylistic choice. But we can do some things with a circular selection like this. If we go over here to our layer mask icon, which we used in week 2 for the curves to adjust the lip color, you can double click on this black and white shape that's been created, and that is the layer mask. Think of a layer mask as a stencil, and that might be something that you might want to write down. A layer mask equals a stencil. Everything that is black is cut away and hidden, and everything that is white is still there. So now I'm going to increase the feathering, just like I did on the lip color, and see if I wanted to make kind of like a vignette, kind of like it's you know, photo in the middle and then it kind of disappears to nothing. That's how I would do that. I would do, you know, I would make a circle and then like feather the layer mask, right? Pretty cool. And then we can also bring it back. So your discussion this week is on non-destructive editing, and making a layer mask is a perfect example of non-destructive editing. Because if you accidentally have cut your picture in a way that you don't like, all you have to do is Control-click on the layer mask, delete layer mask, and you're back to the way your picture was before. Also, a layer mask allows you to easily make changes to your mask. So if you accidentally cut something away that you don't actually want to cut away, you can always get it back using the eraser button. Okay, now we're going to do something a little bit different. So, you know, this is how, shift button, this is how we make selections with the elliptical marquee tool, right? Just like that. Ta-da! Layer mask. And then this is how we make selections with the rectangle marquee tool. Right? But these tools are going to only make basic shapes. We want to follow the contour of the shape that we want to create, right? So let's venture into slightly more complicated tools. And this next one is the set of lasso tools. And I would really, for this project, only recommend using the polygon lasso tool. Because let's take a look at the regular lasso tool. I am using my trackpad on my laptop to click and drag my way around the flower. And as you can see, because my finger is not very steady and my trackpad is very, very small, I can't really get a precise clean line with this. You know, maybe I'd be able to get a little bit more precise if I had a Cintiq. But just with my finger on the trackpad, my selection does not look very good. And watch what happens when I turn this into a layer mask by clicking on the square with a circle inside of it. Not very good, right? Command D to deselect. So the polygon lasso tool that will be a little bit better though, the lasso tool rather, that will be better is the polygon lasso tool. And the polygon lasso tool though, unfortunately is not gonna be the appropriate tool for this flower because polygon lasso tool only makes straight edges. So this is gonna be great for a box or like the magic wand, that's one of the props available for you this week, or something that is very straight. But for something like this flower, you're gonna see that we're gonna end up making something that's kind of a geometric looking artistic interpretation of a flower, which might be cool for the project that maybe you might have in mind. But it's not gonna be appropriate for making something look realistic. So let's take a look at what this looks like. So now I have completely enclosed this flower with the polygon lasso tool. I'm going to click on the square with the circle inside of it. And we've made a very geometric looking flower, but doesn't look very realistic. And I just control click the deleted layer mask. And so a few years ago, several years ago, in fact, Photoshop added this magnetic lasso tool, which you'll see it's great for hobbyists because it's a way to easily cut something out of its background. But it leaves a very pixelated edge. So the magnetic lasso tool is not recommended for professional Photoshop users because you'll see what it's going to look like once I'm done outlining this. Almost there. So magnetic lasso tool kind of snaps to the edge of an object. And I'm going to click on the square with the circle inside of it. And see, that's what happens. And now when we zoom in, you can definitely see around the edge, you're going to have kind of like a jagged, pixelated edge, which isn't really going to look professional for print work. So magnetic lasso tool, kind of not really recommended. And now for a lot of things, the next tool, the quick selection tool, is also not really recommended as it will sometimes leave a pixelated edge. But if you have an object like this flower that is very smooth, you can use some additional tools and tricks to smoothen out the edge of the selection a little bit more. So watch what happens as I paint my selection using the quick selection tool. And it kind of like selects just the areas of the image that have a similar color. So it's kind of finding the edges of this flower here. And if you accidentally go too far, so if you accidentally like go, okay, I'm gonna accidentally paint into here, and you're like, oh no, I gotta fix that. You can go up here to the top of the screen and there's a little paintbrush with a minus sign next to it. That's the subtract from selection option. Click on that And then you can erase this part of the selection, and you can get it to go back to the way it was. So we have now made this selection of the flower, and it's going to have just an ever so slight pixelated edge around it, which is going to look a little bit ugly. So we're going to click on the square with the circle inside of it. And yeah, this is the problem. If we were to leave it just like this and turn it into a magazine cover or a book cover, it would look bad. It would look so bad. If you had this in your portfolio, you would never get hired. So what we have to do is do additional cleanup. And I would say for this project and for DES104 in general, the step that I'm going to teach you next is not really necessary for this class. It's kind of like an above and beyond teaching thing that I'm going to teach you. You'll learn more about the mask edge refinement tools in DES323 and DES460. But just if you're interested in playing around with these tools, not required, you can double click on your layer mask. That's this black and white shape here. And then you can click on the button that says Mask Edge. And then you can increase the contrast. And you can also smoothen the edge. And that is helping us a little bit, but we still have this kind of green halo around our flower. So if you click Shift Edge and drag it inward, see, it's helping to cut out the background. And it's giving us a smoother edge on our mask. So that tool, that mask edge tool, can be achieved by double clicking on the black and white shape next to the thing that you've selected. That's the layer mask. And then clicking on mask edge and then adjusting the settings. Now you can also, and this is something that's more level appropriate for DES104, you can also directly paint on a layer mask. And so this is something that is very much something you can do in this class that's not too advanced. So if you get your brush tool out and this is really important. Once you have your brush tool out, you have to make sure that your layer mask is selected, and you know your layer mask is selected because there's little white brackets around the corners and edges of your layer mask. And every time you paint with white on the layer mask, watch what happens. It brings back the background. So, and see, my foreground is color is white. That is why the background is coming back. Now to erase the background, you hit X on your keyboard. And now I'm painting with black. And so now this is a great way to clean up your mask edges. Just paint with black. And ta-da, just like that. Ta-da, painting the layer mask. Alrighty, so we've covered using marquee tools, using the lasso tools, using the quick selection tool, Now we're going to get into some slightly more complicated tools that will require a few more steps. I'm going to control click on this layer mask and hit delete layer mask. So this next tool is something called the quick mask, which allows you to paint in your mask. And this tool is going to be great for anytime you have an animal or a fuzzy object or an object that has like an organic edge to it. And what you do is, first step is you hit, and you're going to definitely want to write this down, guys. So write this down. First step is you hit B on your brush, on your keyboard rather. B allows you to start painting with your paintbrush. So B for paintbrush. Then hit D to reset your foreground and background colors to pure black and white, because you need to have pure black and white in order for this to work as your foreground and background colors. So hit B for brush, D to reset your default colors, and then make sure black is your foreground color. Then go up to the top of the screen and make sure whatever brush you're painting with has 100% hardness. And make sure your blending mode is on normal, make sure your opacity is at 100%, and make sure your flow is at 100%. And now what I'm gonna do is hit the letter Q on my keyboard. Q as in quit. And now I'm gonna paint. And as you can see, as I'm painting, even though black is my foreground color. Okay, yeah, sure. Maria asked me to repeat it. So step one is to hit B for brush. B for brush. Step two is to hit D to reset your foreground and background colors, to make sure black is your foreground color and white is your background color. Then go up to the top of the screen and make sure your settings are all correct. So make sure your brush is 100% hardness. Make sure your blending mode is on normal. Make sure your opacity is 100%. And make sure your flow is 100%. And then once you have your paintbrush, once you have your settings right, you're going to hit the letter Q on your keyboard. Q. And you just hit it once. You don't hold it down or anything silly like that. And what we're doing is we're painting in quick mask mode. So we're painting a selection. And it's not like quick selection, which is like trying to find similar colors. This is like you have to paint this yourself. And so I'm just using my brush and I'm painting, and I'm doing it really rough. And you guys, when you do this, you're gonna be a lot cleaner than I'm being. And then after you've painted in what you wish to select, you're gonna hit Q one more time. Okay, so let's go over what we've done so far. I hit B for brush. I hit D to reset my foreground and background colors. I hit X to toggle my foreground and background colors, so I eventually have black as my foreground color. I check my brush settings and make sure my brush is at 100% hardness, 100% opacity, and 100% flow. And then I hit Q on my keyboard and I start painting in quick mask mode. And then I hit Q again and it turns that quick mask into a selection. Okay, everyone got that? And now I need to invert my selection because I've actually selected everything except for the two petals that I wanted to select. So to invert the selection, write this down. You hit Shift Command I. Shift Command I, or if you're on a PC, it's Shift Control I. And then you go down to the bottom of the layer panel and you click on the square with the little circle inside of it. So the advantage of the quick mask tool, and you can see I used it really, really rough and my selection is bad. But it's really great for like things like animals, things that have fuzzy edges, things that are very organically shaped, things that especially are like the same color as their background. Because then all you have to do is paint by hand and you can paint in your selection. And so remember, anytime you want to clean up a mask, all you have to do is get your paintbrush out, and every time you paint with black, you erase. Every time you paint with black, you erase. And every time you paint with white, so I just hit X to paint with white, you bring back. So white brings it back, black erases it. Just like that. So another tool that we're going to learn is the pen tool. And the pen tool is a really, really, really important tool because you're going to use it in Illustrator, you're going to use it in Muse, you're going to use it in so many different programs. But it's kind of cumbersome and it's kind of hard. It's hard to learn and hard to get the hang of. So take some time to practice it. So what you're going to do is go over to the pen tool. And this is really important. Make sure that you're on the path mode. So after selecting the pen tool, make sure you're on the path mode. And then to make a straight line with the pen tool, you just click on 2 points, just like you would with the polygon lasso tool. To make a curved line, you click and hold and then drag out these things called anchor points. And these anchor points create the curved line. And so you curve in the direction of the thing that you're going. And so the pen tool is great for objects like that have smooth curves and straight lines. And see how easy it is? But the thing is, I know, the first time you use the pen tool, you're gonna be like, this is so counterintuitive. I'm not doing it right. So I'm gonna show you guys this game that you can play to learn the pen tool really well. And it's fun, it's an addicting game. And it's important for you guys as graphic designers to learn the pen tool because you're going to use it so often for your employers. And if your employer tells you, oh, you have to use the pen tool for this project, and you're like, I can't use the pen tool, they are going to fire you. So don't get fired. Learn the pen tool. And for so long, I avoided it because I felt like I just want to, especially I'm an illustrator, so I just want to like draw it on my Cintiq. But then after I had to teach the pen tool to other people, I learned that actually it's not that hard. And it takes a little getting used to and a little practice, but it's actually something that I use all the time now because it isn't as scary as I thought it was. Okay, so now I have completely enclosed this flower using a pen tool path. Now, normally, after making what you think is a selection, you'd go down to the bottom of the layer panel and click on the square with a circle inside of it. But the pen tool is different. You're not going to go down and make a layer mask right away. You have to turn this path into a selection. So you're going to go up to the top of the screen and see where it says Make Selection. You're going to click on it. And so now we've turned that path into a selection. And now you can turn that selection into a mask by clicking on the square with the circle inside of it. Oh no, what happened? This is the same thing that might happen to you when you use the quick mask tool. Everything except for the flower remains and the flower disappeared. So what we need to do is invert our mask. When we are using the quick selection tool, the quick mask tool, we saw right away that the selection was inverted, and so we used Shift Command I to invert it. But we no longer have a selection now, we just have a mask. So the shortcut key to invert a mask is a little bit different. It's gonna be Command I. So if you accidentally do this, if you accidentally cut out the opposite of what you want to cut out, hit Command I, and ta-da, then you have your subject against a white background again. So let's learn, I'm going to share with you guys the game, the Bezier game. And this is found at a website called bezier.method.ac, and I'm going to copy and paste this into the chat. Try one more time. Command C to copy. Command V to paste. There we go. And so it has these little tutorials first, and these are the most helpful thing. That teach you, okay, to make a straight line with the pen tool, you just click on 2 points. Done. So easy, right? To make perfect diagonals, perfect vertical lines, and perfect horizontal lines, you hold down the Shift button while you draw your lines. So easy. Then when you start to get into circular lines, this is when it gets a little more complicated, but it's nonetheless fun. So first thing you do is you click and hold and drag out these anchor points. And then click on the next spot. Basically, I say a lot halfway around the curve. Find a spot, and then you can make a perfect circle this way. And then angled curves, you're going to use an additional shortcut key. So you're going to click and drag to pull out these Bezier curves, and then you're going to hold down, after clicking and dragging, you're going to hold down the Alt or Option key to change the angle. And now I'm letting go of my clicker. I'm letting go of my Alt or Option button next. Now I'm clicking on the next point, pulling out the anchor point. Now I'm holding down the Alt or Option button, changing the angle. I'm letting go of my clicker, and I'm letting go of my Alt or Option button. And now I'm clicking on the next point. So now that is how you make curves like that. And then you can do these more complicated shapes. So the pen tool, perfect for straight lines. So now that you've learned the pen tool, you will quickly find that anything that can be used to make a vector shape, like a path, can be used to make a selection and therefore a mask. So if we think back to week 1 and how we had the custom shape tool that gave us access to the custom shape library and all of these interesting cool shapes, you can actually make masks from any and all of these shapes. Okay, so let me find like a cool, complicated, interesting shape that I might want to use. This one. I think I made this shape. No, I made this shape here. Actually, I like that one. That one's one of my favorites. So I have selected from the custom shape library a shape. And now up at the top of the screen, remember we have the 3 options. We have shape, path, and pixels. And I'm going to select the path option. Now I'm going to hold down the Shift button and click and drag at a diagonal angle. And now I've drawn a path over my picture. So just like if I were to have drawn this using the pen tool, I'd need to go up to the top of the screen and click the Make Selection button. So click the Make Selection button up at the top of the screen, and then click OK. And then I can click on the square with the circle inside of it at the bottom of the layer panel, and ta-da! Then I made an interesting, complicated shape using my custom shape tool. Pretty fun, right? Now you can get fancy and do all sorts of things kind of like that. Using something else that's a different kind of mask called a clipping mask. I'm gonna bring in a different flower here. Maria, those shapes, a lot of those shapes come in with Photoshop already. When you take more advanced classes, you'll learn how to make your own shapes, and you'll learn how to download free shapes from other websites. Oops, I was supposed to do place embedded. So file, place embedded. So in your DES104week3 class, you will learn how to make your own custom shapes. There we go. I'm gonna hit enter or return. So after placing a photo into your document, you can clip this photo to different layers, and that is called a clipping mask. So I'm going to temporarily turn this off using the eyeball tool. Click on the background. I'll hit Shift Command N to make a new layer. And yes, Dale, I teach DES104week3. I also teach DES104week3, which is the intermediate Photoshop class and the advanced Photoshop class. And now I'm going to go to, but we have several other teachers as well. So, you know, you might get me, you might get someone else. So you can use your text tool to create something called a shape layer. I just made it white on white, so I'm going to make it black so you can actually see it. There we go. Okay, so this is what's called a, this is a text layer, but it's also a layer that is in a shape of something. So it's not like the background layer that's all like one solid filled in space. You know, your text layer is basically text on a transparent background. So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna turn the flower layer on. What I'm gonna do is clip the flower layer inside the text that says flower. And I'm gonna do that by holding down the Alter Option button and then clicking on the line between the flower picture and the word flower. Ta-da! And so what we've done is we've clipped a picture inside of a shape, and that is called a clipping mask. Now let's get ready to actually do the assignment this week, now that we've learned all the different ways to make selections and masks. So I'll show you guys a finished project, and we'll kind of break down what is all involved in there. Okay, so you can see lots of different layers in here. And this is a perfect example. If you look at these layers, it's a perfect example of non-destructive editing. Every change is made on a separate layer. And this is what employers want you to do when you work in graphic design. They want every change on a separate layer, and they don't want you to ever erase pixels or delete pixels. They want you to use layer masks instead, so you can always go back and make a change to a layer without having to start the whole project over again. And your discussion this week is on this. And I'm gonna, for anyone who's confused about the discussion this week, I'm gonna make it very clear. You have two designers to choose from as far as and you're supposed to select which one has the more efficient method of working. Lakeisha is the correct answer. So this isn't one of those discussions where, oh, it could be any answer. It's up for your own opinion. It's very, very clear. Lakeisha is the designer who is doing it correctly, and Alan is not doing it correctly. So in your discussion this week, you need to explain why Lakeisha's method for doing non-destructive editing with all of these different layers and all these different layer masks is the way to go. And essentially, it's because she can make changes to her project without having to start all over again. Alan can't do that. And then find some quotes from the internet backing up why this is a really important thing to do. And then you'll be all set, right? So I gave you the correct answer. Now you just got to put it in your own words. Now, when we started this project here, so everything's on a separate layer. So I have this stage layer, I have this lamb layer, and this lamb was not cut out. You know, this lamb came in on a picture that looked like that. And that hat came in on a picture that looked like that. And this box came on a picture that looked like that. And so after placing all of these different elements into the background, then we use masking to cut those objects out of their background. Now, this is only half the project. If you turn in something that looks like this, it's not done and you're gonna get half credit for it. You need to also add lighting and coloring to make it all feel like it's part of the same world. So painting a drop shadow on your project is really good, right? And that's just paintbrush, color black, lowering the opacity a little bit. Using a clipping mask with an adjustment layer to change the colors of objects. And then adding like a photo filter over the whole thing, just like you did for the week 2 assessment. And adding a gradient over the whole thing, just like you did for the week 2 assessment, is a great way to bring it all together and make it look like it all belongs together. And part of your rubric is asking, did you use blending modes? Did you use adjustment layers to bring it all together? And if you didn't, I think there's like 50 points that you'll lose. So let's start something from scratch. Remember, if you forget the size of this document, it's gonna be File, New, and then it's gonna be 7 inches by 5 inches, 72 resolution. And then just click OK. Now what we're gonna do, it will be helpful for you to hit Command + to zoom in a little bit. And now what we're gonna do is place our images that we got from the classroom, right? And you can download these images simply by clicking on the link next to each one, and it automatically goes to your downloads folder. Don't right click on, oh, Mary's one of those. See, Mary, you're probably one of the people who likes to fill up your gas tank before it gets down to the E. I'm one of those people who I wait until the little needle goes below the E before I even start thinking about going to a gas station. And so I'm the same with my laptop battery. I'm like, I wait until it's like 1 or 2% before I start thinking about plugging it in. And that annoys people, and I'm okay with that. So after you download the images, you're gonna go to File, Place Embedded. And first we'll put the background on first. So we'll go back to front. So whatever's going in the background, that's gonna go on first. And now, what do you guys notice? There is a little gap, isn't there? Our document is 5 inches by 7 inches, but our background is a square. So what should we do? Should we click on the edges and stretch them to fill in the background? No. No, no, never. Never do this, guys. Do not click on the edges and stretch it to fill the background, okay? That will stretch and distort your picture and end up making your picture look squished. Look how terrible that looks. It looks squished. The little circles in the background are like little pancakes now. It looks so bad. Don't ever do this. And in fact, this is a question that's going to be on your quiz this week. There's going to be like an example of an image that has been resized incorrectly. And you have to find out, okay, you have to figure out what was done incorrectly about that image. And the answer is the person resized it from the edges rather than from the corners. So a better way to resize something is to hold down the shift button, click on the corner, hold down the shift button, click on the corner and drag upward at a diagonal angle while holding down the shift button. This is really important. And let go. And then go down to the other corner, hold down the shift button, and click and drag downward at a diagonal angle. So we're never clicking on the edges and pulling horizontally or vertically. We're only clicking on the corners and pulling diagonally. Now, after you have done this, go up to the top of the screen and check your width and height. Sometimes you might have accidentally let go of the shift button a little too soon and ended up distorting the image, and maybe it says, you know, maybe your height is accidentally 32.39 instead of 31.37. So you need to go and up and manually adjust those sizes so that the width and the height are exactly the same. They always need to be exactly the same. And now you're going to enter a return after placing that image in your document. And now I'm going to go to File, Place Embedded. And then we will add our little animal picture. Now I'm going to hold down the shift button, click on the corners, and I'm dragging downward at a diagonal angle. And I just realized I keep on saying diagonal, but I realize that some of you might not know what the word diagonal means. So I want to make sure that I define it all for you. So can anyone in the chat define what diagonal is? And so now after I've resized it, I'm going to go up to the top of the screen and I'm going to click width and height. And the width is going to be the same as the height. So I'm going to change it to 19.42, right? Because I accidentally let go of the shift button too soon. Okay, so I think everyone's a little bit confused about what the word diagonal means and what the word horizontal means and what the word vertical means. So diagonal is halfway between horizontal and vertical. So let's do a little Google search for images that will best describe these terms. So a diagonal, right? You can see it's a line that goes in this direction. And let's see what horizontal and vertical mean. Okay. So on this little illustration here, and you guys might want to write this down on your notes and maybe do a little drawing so you can remember what these words mean so that when I say them, you'll be able to put a picture in your head of, okay, what I'm talking about when I say horizontal, vertical, or diagonal. So line C here is vertical. Vertical means it goes up and down. So whenever I say click and drag in a vertical line, that means click and drag in an up and down line. And then line B here is horizontal. Horizontal means side to side. So if you ever hear me say click and drag in a horizontal line, that means click and drag side to side, like B. And then whenever you hear me say click and drag at a diagonal angle, that means, you know, try and picture this line here, this A, right? And here's another really great graph. Vertical up and down, horizontal side to side, diagonal at an angle like this, okay? So if you ever get confused by any of the terminology that I say, please feel free to just reach out and say, I don't understand what that word means, and I'm here to help you. So next we have to put the hat on the little animal. So we're gonna go to File, Place Embedded. And when you select the hat for the animal, it has to be the appropriate angle hat. So for instance, this little capybara here, he's facing kind of 3/4 view. He's not quite facing profile, and he's not quite facing straight on. So if I were to put this hat on him, it wouldn't look right, would it? Because he's placed 3/4 view, and the hat is perfectly profile. So if I put that hat on his head, it will look strange. It will look like it got cut out and put there. So this hat, however, is also 3/4 view. So if I put this hat on his head, it's going to look much more natural because it's facing the same angle that he is facing. And notice how as I was resizing, the width and the height slightly changed. The width is 13.18 and the height is 13.19. We have to fix that. And now hit enter or return. So now we bring in the prop. So I'm going to go File, Place Embedded. Oh no, did I forget to download him? No. Let's go back to our classroom. So File, Place Embedded, File, Place Embedded. Okay, now I want this magic wand to look natural in his hand, but right now it's facing the wrong direction. So we need to use the same lesson that we learned in week 2 when we were placing the cat's eye on the other side of his head. We need to flip this. So we're going to go up to Edit, Transform, Flip Horizontal. Write that down, guys. Edit, Transform, Flip Horizontal. And resize it appropriately. Mine says 12.49, 1250. So I'm going to change 12.49 to 1250. And now I'm going to hit enter or return. Now we're going to cut out each of these objects using the correct selection technique that's going to be most appropriate for the object. So this magic wand is made of straight lines, right? all straight lines, and I'm hitting Command plus sign to zoom in. So I'm going to use the polygon lasso tool to cut this out. Not the magnetic lasso tool, the polygon lasso tool. And I would strongly recommend that you cut more than you need, okay? So I know it might be some people's tendency to go like here when they're making their line, but you can see that there's some white gaps that are going to show up. So cut more than you need. So I'm going to cut well inside this stick here. Ta-da! So now I've selected the magic wand. What's my next step going to be? How do I turn the selection into a mask? I click on the square with the circle inside of it at the bottom of the layer panel. Ta-da! There we go. And now what I need to do is I need to just kind of erase part of his toe there. So it looks like it's kind of embedded into his toe, right? So like he's holding it. So I'm going to get my brush tool out. I'm going to hit X so that I'm painting with black as my foreground color. And I'm going to paint to erase part of the stick. So now the stick is firmly inside his toe and it looks like he's holding on to it. Now the next tool is the hat, or the next layer is the hat. So what I'm going to do is use my pen tool, and I don't need to see the inside of the hat because that's going to be covered up by the capybara's face. So I'm going to trace with my pen tool around. So now I've completely traced the hat. What do I do next? Nope, not the mask tool. Before the mask tool. I need to turn this into a selection, right? So how do I turn this into a selection? Yep, I click the Make Selection button up at the top of the screen. And now that I have a selection, what do? I go down to the square with the circle inside of it at the bottom of the layer panel, and I click on it. Oh no! How do I fix this problem? I invert it. What's the shortcut key to invert? Command I. Ta-da! So now I just need to rotate it and get it to fit a little bit better. So I'll hit Command T. And to rotate this, I can hover my cursor near the corner until my arrow becomes kind of a curved line. And then I can kind of rotate like this a little bit. And I can bring it down. I can shrink it as I need to. And to return. And now I noticed that as I was kind of rotating, some white pixels showed up. So I can hit B for brush. And I can just erase these white pixels a little bit. That way it makes it look natural. Now what I need to do is cut this guy out of his background. So I'm going to make it easier on myself so I can see the whole thing, I can click on the little eyeball tool next to the hat and the prop. And then I can click on the animal. So now I have him all by himself. And then I can use my quick selection tool to select him. So I'm going to hit B for brush. I'll hit Q for quick mask. And paint, 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 paint. And because he has fuzzy edges, he has like some fur, I can paint most of him with the hard edge brush. And then when I get to the edge, I can use a softer edge brush. So he'll have that fuzzy, furry look to him. Okay, so now I'm going to go up to, actually I need to fix his feet. And then use a soft edge brush. And then with the soft edge brush, paint, 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 paint. And then I went a little too outside the lines there, so I'm going to hit X and fix that. Okay, now I need to turn this quick mask into a selection. So what's the first step? To turn the quick mask into a selection. Not invert the colors yet. We have to turn it into a selection by hitting Q. Yep, hit the letter Q. And now we know we've selected everything except for the capybara. So I need to invert the selection. And so how do I invert the selection? Shift Command I. Very good. Thank you for looking at your notes. And then I have to turn the selection into a quick mask by clicking on the square with the circle inside of it at the bottom of the layer panel. Now we are halfway done. We need to do a little lighting. So one thing I'm going to add is a shadow underneath him. And to do that, I'm going to get my brush tool out, make a new layer. And then I'm simply painting a shadow like this. It doesn't look at all realistic though, does it? because we have to squish it now to make it look like it's in perspective. And then we have to lower the opacity. So I'm going to squish this by hitting Command T. Just think of something completely different. Command T, and then squish by clicking on the edges, unlike you would when you're squishing an image. Enter a return. And now I'm going to lower the opacity. And to do that, I just go over here, lower opacity like that. And actually, I want to just rotate this a little bit. So I'm holding down the shift button while hold on a second. So hold down the shift button while you select all the layers, hit Command T, and now you can rotate them all at once. There we go. Now that looks a little bit more like secure feeling. Okay, now another thing I want to add is a shadow on the front of the capybara because the light is coming from behind. So that means it's going to put like a little halo around him, and then the shadow is going to be on the front. So I'm going to make a new layer above the animal layer. And then I'm going to clip this new layer to the animal layer by holding down the Alter option button and clicking on the line between layer 2 and the animal layer. So to make a clipping mask, again, you hold down the Alter option button and you click on the line between layer 2 and the animal layer. And then watch, I can paint and not have to worry about getting outside the lines. And again, this doesn't look realistic yet. But if I lower the opacity, it's going to start to look okay. So the idea is like the light is coming from behind and casting the front in shadow. Now I need a similar thing to happen with the hat. So I'm going to make a new layer, hold down the Alter option button and click on the line between layer 3 and hat 3. Get a soft edge brush and I'm going to paint, 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 paint. And now lower the opacity. And now for the prop, probably going to put like a little shadow on the stick. So make a new layer, hold down the Alter option button. I could put maybe a little shadow here. And then lower the opacity. Okay, now what we want to do is adjust the overall color of the picture and maybe even put like a little vignette or gradient on it to bring it all together. And so we'll play with a little photo filter. I think making everything kind of bluish might be kind of fun. So I'm going to click on the circle that's light on one side, dark on the other. And I'm going to click on photo filter. And I'm going to click on, let's do deep blue. Now increase density. And this is kind of nice. It looks kind of like nighttime. But I don't want it to be so dark. So I'm going to click preserve luminosity. That's kind of nice. And then I want to put a vignette on it. So I'm going to go to the circle that's light on one side, dark on the other. And I'm going to click on not gradient map, but just a regular old gradient. I accidentally clicked solid color. There we go, gradient. And I'm going to select the black and white. I'm going to, for style, I'm going to select radial. I'm going to click reverse. And I'll increase the scale. Again, this is just like I did for the headscarf week 2 assessment. And now to make that white become transparent, I'm going to click on right now where it says normal, and I'm going to change it to multiply. And so before, after, so see how it kind of darkened the corners and brought everything together? That looks pretty nice, right? Now, when you submit this, you guys, this is really, really important. I know we've been submitting JPEGs for our past assignments, but for this assignment, because I need to see your layer masks, I need to see all your layers, I need you to submit this as a PSD. So we're gonna go to File, Save As. On desktop, do we have a folder for our class that I made? There it is. I'm going to click on DES104 underscore week 3 underscore assignment dot PSD. And that's your assignment. Photo compositing, which is really, really useful for the work that you're going to go into as graphic designers. For your assessment this week, you are going to have a quiz on masking and Photoshop tools. And this is going to be a little bit different than quizzes that maybe you've had before. This is something called a didactic quiz, which means you don't have to study for it. You'll probably need about an hour to complete it. And what it will be, it will have a video or a little bit of reading that you have to do. And then you're going to answer the question based off the reading or the video that is embedded in the assessment. And you are allowed to take this quiz multiple times. So one, it's really easy because the answers are right there. But two, there's no reason any of you should get less than a 50 on this quiz. Okay. Alrighty, so that is what you guys have to do this week. Yeah, it's kind of like the daily checkpoint, exactly. So I wanted to leave the rest of the class open to questions if you guys have any and you need help. If not, you are free to go. And so who wants to go first? Dale, you said you had some things that you needed assistance with? Okay, great. Yeah, I'd love to help you with that. So go ahead and hit share screen, and I'd love to help you with what you're struggling with. And feel free to turn your mic on too, if that helps.
Where the hell is it?
Okay, cool. It looks like you're unmuted. Yay, so it looks like you're on the right track.
Yeah, but this ain't the question.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. File.
I see a few things that you're doing incorrectly, so I can help you with those.
Let's see here.
Okay, you made her black and white and you put a bunch of adjustment layers on that I didn't demonstrate. So let's delete everything that I didn't demonstrate in the lecture. So delete exposure by hitting delete. So just click on exposure 1 and hit delete. So exposure, color balance, black and white, levels, those are all things I did not want you to do on this assignment, on this particular picture.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah. The reason I done it this way is because these were the only tools that I could see or even get to when I done this.
Okay,
Until,
so I'll walk you through how to do it correctly. No problem.
That's why I was like, well, I don't know what else to do. Well, I can do this and I can do this.
Did you watch our week 2 lecture?
Yes, I was present, but throughout the whole thing, it was quite vexing.
Oh no, I'm sorry to hear that.
I mean, you know, trying to get the Adobe lined out and my computer and blah, 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 blah. Everything happens at once.
Oh, that's too bad. Yep, just keep on hitting delete.
But it ain't letting me get to it.
You can also just hit, do you see, if you look straight down on your computer, there's a button that says delete. Do you see that?
Yeah, but when I do it,
Mhm.
see, okay, well, maybe that does work better.
You can just hit the button that says delete on your keyboard. Okay, we're getting somewhere. Okay, we might not have to delete the other layers. Okay, let's turn layer 4 on and off by clicking on the eyeball next to layer 4, and we'll see what you did on that layer.
Nothing.
Okay, so you can delete that layer. And then turn the eyeball on and off on layer 3.
Hair.
Okay, so you use spot healing. Okay, that's good. And then let's turn the layer on and off on layer 2. I don't think you did anything on that one. So click on layer 2 and then hit the delete button. And then click on the eyeball on and off on layer 1.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
you got rid of some of that hair there. Okay, good. Now it looks like something happened by her chin. There's like a fuzzy flesh-colored spot under her jaw, and it looks like because it hasn't shown up on any other layers, you might have accidentally done that on the background layer. Let's turn layer 3 on and off again. Yeah, weird. So since it's on the background, we can't do anything to fix it. So turn layer 1 and layer 3 on again. Okay, good. Now click on layer 3 and hit Shift Command N to make a new layer. And then click OK. Now you're going to hit B for brush. Now you're going to hit D to reset your foreground and background colors. And now you're going to hit X so that white is your foreground color. Good. Now you're going to go over to your brush on the left side of your tool panel and click on your brush tool because you actually have the incorrect brush tool selected. So we're going to click on not the color replacement tool, but the regular brush tool by itself. Now, just like we did in the class session, see how you accidentally changed the blending mode to multiply? So go up to the top of the screen and keep the blending mode just like I did in the class session, which is on normal. So normal is up at the very, very top. Okay, good.
That may have been another thing I done. I blended every layer together. I mean, I didn't compress them together, but I blended everything together.
I don't know how that would work, but we'll definitely try and solve your problem by not
doing it.
Yeah, basically, it's just very important that you follow my instructions and not do something completely random, because a really important part of learning is following instructions. Right. So like I see, you just made a spot, so we need to hit Command Z to undo that. Good. And now you are going to hit the bracket, which is located right next to the letter P. You're going to hit the right bracket, and that's going to make your brush a little bit bigger. So click that a couple times, a little bit bigger. So next to the letter P, there's a bracket. And then next to that bracket, there's another bracket. And that is, so there's a left bracket and a right bracket. Right. You're going to click the right bracket. Does that make sense?
Right, that's what I'm doing, but it's still got the center.
And click it again, one more time. Just don't hold down the shift or command, just click that bracket.
I'm not holding anything.
Okay, let's paint a little on her forehead. Paint. Good, okay, perfect, good. And now you're going to make a big I don't know if you can remember how I did it in the class session, but you're going to make a big swoop across her face, not getting in her eyes. So you're going to go across her forehead, down the side of her face to around her cheeks, not on the hair, not on the hair. Let's do it again. So hit Command Z. So you're going to go on the forehead. You're going to try and stay on her skin, forehead, down the side of her face, not getting in her eyes, across her nose. So go across the nose. Good. Okay. And I'll let go. Oh, no, you put this on the, okay. Let's Command Z. You accidentally deleted your new layer that you had made. So let's hit Command Z one more time. And now let's hit Alt or Option Command Z. So hold down the Alt or Option button and then hold down the Command button and then the Z button. Okay, good. And then one more time, Alt or Option Command Z. Okay, good. And then one more time, Alt or Option Command Z. Good. Okay, now you're going to make a new layer. So we really want to make sure we don't delete this new layer. So hit Shift Command N to make a new layer. Good. And now just like you did before, make a big swoop across her face. Okay, now you're going to go over to the layers panel, and right now the blending mode is on normal. You're going to change it from normal to soft light. And now you're going to lower the opacity. So see where it says opacity in the layer panel? And then you're just going to lower the opacity. So see, you're able to do everything right. It just seems like maybe the first time around you weren't quite paying close enough attention to follow the directions.
Well, like I was saying, you see my toolbars on the left here. I had a third of those, and even the little triangles in the corner were gone. So whatever the tool was there was all I had, and I could not get into even if I used the quick select keys, it would not. It would only allow me to select what I had in that little toolbox.
Okay. And what solved that problem?
Tara.
Okay, perfect. Good.
It was a settings issue that Photoshop, I don't know if when it installed, she said, I've never seen anything happen like this before.
Oh, that's too bad.
She said, your settings. She said, yeah, your settings when it installed done this, because there's no way that you could have went to these menus and changed these selections unless you knew you were changing these selections. So, you know what I'm saying? That's where my frustration was coming from. No matter what I did, it wasn't right.
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so yeah, reduce your opacity down to like about 20%.
Oh.
Okay, good. And now we'll make a new layer. So Shift Command N to make a new layer.
Now, see, when I've been doing it, I've been going down and clicking off of the current layer and then doing the new layer. Does it make a difference whether you do or don't do that?
It doesn't make a difference. Yeah, I just like to always make sure that my new layer is going on top of my other layers. And now with this one, we'll just change her eye color. So select any color you want, blue or green or anything you want. And then you're going to make your brush the width of her iris. So, and then what you're going to do is paint around her pupil. And if you want Command + to zoom in really, really close, we'll make it easy on you. Okay, so shrink your brush size
A little too close.
Yep.
And
And so we just want to make it like the width.
this is kind of a little on the frustrating side. You said the size of the pupil?
No, the size of the width of the iris. So you want it to be, you want to be able to paint around the iris without getting in the pupil. So I would say shrink your brush down a little bit more.
Oh, okay, I got you.
And then you'll move your brush to the iris and you'll paint around, yeah, without getting in the whites and without getting in the pupil. Oh, and it looks like you still have white. So what you'll need to do is hit X.
What was that?
Hit X.
Oh, and start over?
Yep.
Yeah, that was another thing. Like on my wallpaper, it took me 5 minutes to do it. I erased it about 20 times because I just bumped my keypad and it erased it.
Oh no, that's too bad.
Yeah, that's what I was saying about having such a hard time with this class. The harder I try to do good, the further I fall behind.
Oh no. Well, don't worry, because like I've said, I taught this class to probably 5,000 students, and like most of them, like 99% of them, end up getting a good grade in the class, end up, learning Photoshop. So I know you can as well. We just got to get over these
obstacles. That's it. I'm so quick on the uptake. Like now, with you actually walking me through it, I'll have it down. You won't have to tell me again. I've got it.
Yeah.
But if I got to jump from here to there to here to there, it's hard for me to stay focused, as it were.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, now go over to the other eye, and you can just do 2 fingers lightly on your trackpad and scroll over. Perfect.
I bought a Wacom, but Tara said until you learn how to use this program, leave it alone. Oh, whoops.
Well, yeah, I would say, I mean, it'll come in handy if you find the Wacom to be really easy. But if you find the Wacom to be kind of difficult, it's hard to learn Photoshop and learn a difficult tool at the same time.
Right. Which I
So
was
just learn one first and then learn.
Right. Yeah. Master one, then move on.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, good. And now what you'll do is go over to the layer panel, and right now you'll click on, see where the blending mode says normal?
Yeah.
You're going to click on color. So scroll all the way down to the bottom. Perfect. And now what you'll do is just lower the opacity just a little bit. So like 50% would be good and natural. And good. And if you were to turn this in just like this, you'll probably get a good grade on it. So hit Command - to zoom out. So you can see the whole thing. And now I wanted to fix one thing on your coloring project that I saw that you were working on before you switched over to this one, because I saw you were doing something a little bit incorrectly, and we just want to fix that so it's easier for you.
Assignment 2, so it'd have to be this one.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. So right now you have layer 2 on the multiply blending mode. It needs to be on the normal blending mode.
Yeah, this is one of them that I multiplied everything.
Oh, okay, yeah, we'll just do a normal blending mode, and then you'll move layer 2 above layer 1, because layer 1 is solid, and if you put coloring underneath a solid layer, we won't be able to see anything. And so click on layer 1 as well, and make sure that our blending mode is on normal too. Perfect. Okay, cool. Now you're all set, and you'll just make sure that you put your colors on layer 2 as you're doing your coloring, and looks like you're halfway there.
Okay, what's the one? Is it a copy? See how I done the I guess you call them ears is what they look like right in here.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I done each one of those individually. Isn't there a copy or?
You can, if you hold down the shift button,
Let me get my pen.
you can then, we have to get our magic wand tool out. So hit W. And then while holding down the shift button, click on the next one that you want to select.
This one here would be good.
And then what you can do is you can just go, oh, you know what? Actually, you need to be on, you're on the wrong layer. That's why it's not working. You have to go up to layer 0 first. And now, when you're holding down the shift button, you can click on each object that you want to select. And
All I gotta do is just, but what if, now here's the thing. I know it's probably going a little far, but I want both sides as one.
yeah, you hold down the shift button and you click again.
To make that one versus.
So you don't
I
have
want
to
to take the
in between.
center line out. And here's my thought on it. A gradient coloring from the center out, you know, dark to light, like a sunburst.
Yeah, well, what you'd have to do is erase the line first. So you'd have to go to layer 0. You'd have to unlock it. Then you'd have to get your eraser tool out. And then you have to erase the line. But for this assignment, you're not allowed to erase any lines.
Okay. So, yeah, I don't want to do something wrong,
yeah, but for future,
I was going with that, the color it's going to bring to it.
Yeah.
By using a gradient, yellow/orange.
Yeah. But you can definitely use a gradient on that one. If you go underneath your paint bucket tool, there's the gradient tool. So if you click on your paint bucket tool, click and hold. And then there's a
because I used it on, as a matter of fact, on my wallpaper.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, and then you just click and drag across that selection that you made.
Oh,
you have to go back to layer 2.
That is something that I learned pretty quick too. Oh, I'm on the wrong layer. That's why it won't let me select it.
And what happened there was you made a very short line. So what you might need to do is make your line really long. So hit Command Z to undo. So the longer you make your line, the more it'll blend. And you can hit Alt Command Z to undo.
Now, when I hit Command Z to undo that, will it change my color back? Or should that be left?
It'll go back to nothing being there. So yeah, you have to hold down Alt and then Command and then Z.
Control?
Alt Command Z.
I don't see an Alt.
Oh, do you have Option?
Yeah.
Yeah, Option Command Z.
Yeah, because I know Command is an Apple term and Alt is a PC term.
Yeah,
so
I'm
you
sorry.
really had me confused.
I have a.
I was like, no wonder it wouldn't do right.
Yeah, I have a keyboard that says both Alt and Option on it.
All right, and
then draw a real long line.
Okay. Let me just delete that action. All right. Now I go back to layer 2. I got my gradient selected. And shift, click.
There we go.
Yeah, that's actually what I was wanting right there.
Perfect.
Yeah, and I can do that with just by going, like, say, to this one, or do I have to go back to layer 0, select it?
Yep, you have to go back to layer 0. That's why it's a really good idea to try and select as much as you want.
Oh, at one time. I got you.
Yeah.
And switch, like say I select where I'm at now, then I go to this one. All I gotta do is let off shift and then, or let off the shift and the click, move to here, hit the shift and the click, and it'll trace that as well.
Yep.
All right, I believe I've got it.
Cool, perfect. And I hate to leave you, but I actually have to go. But what you can do if you want to meet with me again, I'll be here Wednesday and Thursday, and I'd love to help you, with anything that you need help with.
You wouldn't believe how much you've helped me just in this very short time.
Woohoo! That's good to hear.
But thank you so much for your time and your effort. I know you're giving me a lot more than what.
Oh, don't worry about it.
But I do appreciate it, and it is not in vain. I am trying very hard to get everything back to where it should be.
Oh, yeah. I have no doubt that you'll pass the class with the grade that you want.
All righty. Thank you so much.